Welcome to the JCCV 2020 Annual General Meeting. Please be upstanding for the Australian National Anthem. Please welcome your host and JCCV President, Jennifer Huppert.
I would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which you are gathering this evening. I am on the traditional lands of the Boon Wurrung people, and I wish to acknowledge them as traditional owners, recognise their continuing connection to land, waters and culture, and the contribution that our First Nations have made to our shared heritage as Australians, and pay my respects to their elders, past, present and emerging. I would also like to welcome all of you who've joined us for our AGM, delegates and community leaders, the recipients of our awards and their families and friends. In particular, I would like to acknowledge Josh Burns MP, Federal Member for Melbourne Ports, Nina Taylor, MLC, Member for Southern Metropolitan Region, David Southwick MP, Member for Caulfield and Shadow Minister for Police, Community Safety and Corrections, and David Newbury MP, Member for Brighton. As you're aware, this is my final AGM as JCCV President, and I'll be speaking more about that later this evening, but first some housekeeping. It's a bit different this evening as we're meeting via Zoom and as a webinar. At various times, I'll be asking for movers and seconders of particular motions. If you would like to move or second a motion, please type your name in the chat. And if you wish to abstain or vote against a motion, please also do the same. Otherwise, we'll assume that everybody is in favour of the motion and it will be carried. Any questions during the evening should also be asked using the Q&A function, and we'll keep an eye on them and attempt to answer them in a timely manner. And also to assist with tonight's elections, can all voting delegates please rename themselves on Zoom to show your name and the affiliate organisation you represent. For example, David Cohen, Blue Road Synagogue. Instructions will be in the chat, and if you need any further help, please send a message directly to Andre Oboler. At this AGM, a number of positions come up for election. President, Vice President, Treasurer, and 5 members of the Executive and 6 ECAJ councillors. We received 6 nominations for the 5 positions of JCCV Executive members, and there will be an election for that shortly. We only received 3 candidates by the close of nominations for the 6 ECAJ councillor positions. Those 3 candidates will be deemed elected and will be announced later this evening. As delegates were advised via email, we reopened nominations for the remaining 3 positions. 3 candidates have nominated so far, so if anyone else wishes to nominate, they should send a message to the returning officer, Isabel Polgar, via the chat function with their name, together with the names of the JCCV delegates who are nominating and seconding them. Nominations will close in about 5 minutes. And when our year in review video concludes. Up first, we have the elections of the 5 general members of the JCCV Executive. Biographies of each of the candidates have been circulated. You should now see a slide on how the elections will operate. Please vote now for the JCCV Executive. Results will be announced later tonight. We will now see a short video about the activities of the JCCV during the previous 12 months.
We will not be silent, for the time is now. We will rise to be the answer. A change is coming down. Every generation gathers, standing now as one, willing to become the difference for the days to come. This is for our future, for the ones who've been ignored and been forgotten, for the life without the right to make a choice. We're gonna raise our voice. This is for our freedom. This is for the hope of every generation, for the innocence of every girl and boy. We're gonna raise our voice. Every life and every family, part of something great. Not a single voice forgotten. We will be the change. This is for our future, for the ones who've been ignored and been forgotten, for the life without the right to make a choice. We're gonna raise our voice. This is for our freedom. This is for the hope of every generation, for the innocence of every girl and boy. We're gonna raise our voice. This is our time to stand up, stand up. This is our time to speak up, speak up. This is our moment. We're gonna own it. We'll be the change. This is our time to stand up, stand up. This is our time to speak up, speak up. This is our moment. We're gonna own it. We'll be the change. This is for our future, for the ones who've been ignored and been forgotten, for the life without the right to make a choice. We're gonna raise our voice. This is for our freedom. This is for the hope of every generation, for the innocence of every girl and boy. We're gonna raise our voice. It's our time. This is our time to stand up, stand up. This is our time to speak up, speak up. This is our moment. We're gonna own it. We'll be the change.
Okay, so we're just waiting for a minute to get the poll together. We will vote exactly like we just did the other one. And before we do that, while we set that up, yes, there'll be an opportunity now for 2 minutes for each of the candidates who are standing to please speak, introduce yourselves, who you are, and why people should vote for you. Gerard, you've commented in the chat immediately below, so if you'd like to go first.
Okay, thank you. So, look, thank you for the opportunity to speak. So, I've been involved in many aspects of Jewish life since my childhood. I grew up through B'nai Akiva in Auckland and developed an affinity and appreciation of Jewish life and practice and the central role that Israel plays in our identity, in our history, and our future. In my final year of school, I came to Melbourne on a music tour, and I spent a Shabbat in Caulfield, attended Mizrahi synagogue, and felt what it meant to be part of a vibrant, proud, and confident Jewish community. It was then that I saw my future in the Australian Jewish community. I went to Israel the following year on my Shnatya with B'nai Akiva and returned to Auckland to complete a commerce degree at University of Auckland. My involvement with Jewish life really commenced with leadership at B'nai Akiva. I then joined the Community Security Group, which was nascent at the time, and it's an organization I continued to work with for about 2 decades. Since arriving in Australia, I've been on the Mizrahi committee responsible for security. I'm now on the executive of Mizrahi. I've served as the security chairman of the JCCV Executive. I'm currently the co-chairman of Liebler Yavneh College. And I've been involved actively in grassroots advocacy ever since the wave of anti-Semitism that accompanied the 2014 summer war between Israel and Hamas. Professionally, I'm a commercial media strategist and negotiator. And I'm proud to be a member of the Australian Jewish community. I think it's one of the strongest, most diverse and generally harmonious communities in the world. We've got a proud history, and I'd like to do what I can to ensure we have a strong, confident, and vibrant future. Thank you.
If we can get Dean Scher to be able to speak.
I'm Dean Scher. I've been a current ECAJ counsellor for the last couple of years. I work professionally in politics, currently for Josh Burns, who's also with us today. So I've been a Labor campaign staffer and advisor for the last, I think it's 9 years now, which is a bit scary. And the reason that I guess ran for ECAJ a couple of years ago and last year and this year is because particularly I'm very passionate about the, I guess, ECAJ's focus on ensuring that, we keep strong relationships with federal and state Labor. I'm also a previous August president, political officer and Victorian president. And I've been involved in a range of different activities through there. And I'm a member of the Zionism Victoria Executive, an executive member without portfolio. So yeah, I hope to continue to be able to contribute to ECAJ's work, liaising with Canberra, with Parliament, with politics, and especially with the Australian Labor Party, which is it's very important to me that the Jewish community continues to have a strong relationship with Labor and be able to deal with whatever issues occur in the broad Labor and union movements. Thank you.
Okay, Ricky, you are up, and you have 2 minutes, starting from when you start.
Great, thank you, Andre, and thank you everybody for letting me speak and just introducing who I am. So I've been on the JCCV Executive now for the last over 2 years as the treasurer of the JCCV. But my involvement in the community starts way before that. I first, went to Liebler Yavneh College as in high school, and then through my friendships attended Hineni, one of the wonderful youth movements here, and took the time to really start exploring the Jewish community. Ended up becoming the Rosh of Hineni Melbourne. And then from there, I was like, well, where's next for my Jewish experience? What am I going to do for my community? And where am I going to lead to? And that, natural transition as I was still at university at the time led me to becoming involved with Orges and becoming an advocate of our community through Orges. And through that experience, had fantastic experiences learning about our community more. So learning about some of the formal structures in the community. And then a couple of years ago, Jennifer approached me to become the treasurer of the JCCV. And that's kind of taken my involvement in the community to that next step, and why I kind of want to get involved in ECAJ and become an ECAJ counsellor and a representative of the JCCV on the ECAJ's and the Victorian Jewish community is really to strengthen that bond between the Victorian community here, but also looking at the New South Wales community, looking at the whole Australian community, and also strengthening that bond between our organisation, the JCCV, and the ECAJ as well. So I think we need strong representation, strong people who will advocate for the JCCV and what they need, alongside Andre and the others that will sit on that council. So that's my main focus, my main motivation to kind of join and be that representative.
Ricky, well done. You had 8 seconds left. Everyone so far has been under 2 minutes. That's great. Our last candidate running in this election is Daniel Nash. Brilliant. Off you go.
All right, thank you, Andre, and congratulations on your election. I am Daniel Nash. I've been sort of ceaselessly involved in Jewish community organisations and the Jewish community since school, really. I've studied at Yavneh in Mount Scopus, and immediately after went into Augis and became National Treasurer and then National Chairperson. I was a director for Augis for 5 years and very heavily involved in running the international programs, and we sent something like 600 young people to Israel in the year I was National President. I suppose the reason I'm nominating is because I have this passion for the infrastructure of an inclusive and active Jewish community. And that motivated me to join the JCCV and motivates me now to be as board member of the Zionists of Victoria, and to nominate now for the ECAJ. I'm very passionate about what, Andre, you in particular have done while in the JCCV, and I know from my time with you on the committee, and you've obviously been a very strong voice on anti-Semitism, especially online. And that's a priority that I want to be involved with and work on. I think the main priorities are Jewish community security, combating anti-Semitism, furthering dialogue and connection between Jews here and in Israel. And as I said, making sure that the community is an open and inclusive place for all Jews, regardless of gender, sexual identity, and same-sex attraction. So that's sort of why I'm running. And again, congratulate you, Andre, on your election. And I look forward to continuing to be involved and playing a role in the community, whether here or elsewhere. Thank you.
Okay, Jennifer, can I hand back to you to take forward the regular agenda?
The next part of our agenda is the community awards that we give every year.
The JCCV proudly presents the 2020 Community Awards, the General Sir John Monash Award, and the Sylvia Gelman Young Leadership Award.
The first of the awards is the General Sir John Monash Award. This award is named in honour of a man who was without doubt not only one of our community's finest, but one of Australia's greatest personalities. As an engineer, lawyer and soldier, Sir John Monash is remembered as a military commander who promoted the importance of the well-being of his troops, and was one of the instigators of our Anzac Day commemoration. He was a leading engineer and academic, and also a patron of the Zionist Federation of Australia and New Zealand. He was a truly remarkable man. I'm delighted to announce that this year's recipient of the General Sir John Monash Award for Outstanding Community Service is Graham Leonard, AM. I've known Graham and his wife, Ruth, for more than I care to count, as he was a close friend of my late father, George, and he and Ruth have played an important place in my family history, and I know my sons will remember many a discussion at family events about the Australian cricket team's prospects for the current summer with Graham. However, tonight we're honouring Graham for his contribution to the community. Graham has had many leadership positions in both the Jewish and broader community over many years. He was president of the JCCV from 2001 to 2003, and subsequently served as ECAJ president and is a life member of that organisation. The list of organisations Graham has contributed to are too numerous to list in full, but he has also been the chair of the Anti-Defamation Commission and president of the Australian Friends of Hebrew University. Before moving to Melbourne from Sydney, he held many leadership roles in that city. His contribution to the community was recognised in 2008 when he was appointed as a member of the Order of Australia for service to the community as an executive member of a range of peak Jewish organisations. Graham was a Victorian Multicultural Commissioner from 2012 to 2017, and during that time served as the chair of the VMC's Southern Metropolitan Regional Advisory Council. As an accountant and lawyer, Graham has also had a successful professional career, holding many senior executive roles. He has lectured at universities and has also been an active member of the Australian chapter of Transparency International, including as term of CEO. General Sir John Monash's philosophy can best be summed up in his own words: equip yourself for life, not solely for your own benefit, but for the benefit of the whole community. Graham, through your service to the Jewish and broader community, you have exemplified this philosophy on life. And I congratulate you on this award. We will now see a short video with some messages for Graham.
The General Sir John Monash Award.
I can think of no more fitting recipient of the General Sir John Monash Award for 2020 than Graham Leonard. In such a very unusual year, it is highly appropriate that a very unusual man receives this award. Graham is extraordinarily diverse. He's a lateral thinker and a strategist who has had a number of high-profile positions in varied areas and professions. He has been a chartered accountant in a major steel company, a chief operational officer and finance director of an international company, an executive with Transparency International, a lawyer, a mediator, a university lecturer, and a non-executive director on a number of boards. He has brought this formidable professional background to communal life, making a significant contribution not only to the Jewish community of Victoria, for which he is receiving this award, but also Australia-wide in his role as President of the Executive Council of Australian Jewry, of which he is an honorary life member. I remember a number of years ago, Graham asking me what I thought of the idea of forming a communal bank in Caulfield. I thought it was an excellent idea and had barely digested the concept when concept had turned into reality. Graham doesn't waste time, and the Caulfield Community Bank, the Bendigo Bank, was up and running. Ruth's support for Graham's work has been notable, whether it is here in Melbourne or when she has accompanied him all over the world. My husband Bob and I have been fortunate in being included amongst Ruth's and Graham's friends and have frequently enjoyed their interesting company and amazingly warm hospitality. Mazel Tov, Graham, on a truly merited award, and very, very best wishes.
Graham has an incredible love of the Jewish community. There are few people who have served it as a leader of so many diverse organisations at both a state and federal level. I've had the honour of working with Graham in a number of those organisations, and what always has struck me was when Graham decided to take on a new presidential role, he did it with esteem, with enthusiasm and with a vision, and in so doing he injected a fresh approach and energy into that organisation. It may surprise you to know that Graham and I were at university together. I'm actually much older than I look. We were both studying law at Monash University in the early 1990s. Graham was one of the mature age students sitting up the front, entirely focused on what was going on, and I, well, let's just say I was not. I recall on one particular day, it must have been a Monday, having seen Graham at uni at a lecture, I later saw him sitting at the head table at a JCCV plenum meeting at Beth Weitzman and realised he must be Jewish. Little did I know then that Graham would become a mentor to me, that we would become partners in serving the Victorian and Australian Jewish communities, as well as good friends. I know that Graham still feels that there is much work to be done in Victoria. We are yet to see the establishment of a community appeal, a rationalisation of community resources in Victoria, and the looming fiscal disaster of Jewish education is forever present, maybe now more than ever. Graham's passion for our community has enabled him to improve every organisation that he has led. No doubt, he is ready to help the next generation of community leaders to take up the challenge of these ongoing and difficult issues. Graham, Mazel Tov on receiving the General Sir John Monash Award for outstanding contributions to our community. I cannot think of a more worthy recipient.
Hi Dad, good evening to the JCCV AGM. My name is Scott Leonard and I've been given this remote opportunity to say some words on behalf of myself, my brother Ian and my sister Kirsty on this special occasion for our father Graham. I'd love to be doing this in person, but it was not meant to be. They say behind every great person is another great person. Well, I paraphrase somewhat, but it is the true sentiment of the expression. Dad has been fortunate to have the support of two great people over his many years of community service. My mother Helen was always there in support, raising us 3 children and running our home, while Dad was not only working full-time in demanding jobs, but also devoting much of his spare time to community causes. My earliest memories are his work with the West Wollongong Public School P&C, including painting the swimming pool back in about 1974. I also remember Dad actively reviving and supporting the Jewish community in Wollongong and us attending the small services there. The Melbourne chapter of his life has been possible in no small part to Ruth's support as his confidant, travel agent, personal assistant, caterer, travel companion and life partner. All this while continuing to work for many of his years in Melbourne. Throughout it all, Dad's determination to make a difference in his community has driven him to achieve great outcomes for local and international community groups. And while tonight is about his voluntary work, his willingness to give of his time, knowledge and experience has extended to his mentoring role with several startups and small businesses. As many of you know, my father is also a modest man, and even when he was made a member of the Order of Australia in 2008, I only found out from a search of the internet from Iraq. In fact, I only found out about tonight's award when Hillary reached out to me a couple of weeks ago. Thank you, Hillary. I thank the JCCV for recognising Dad's significant and ongoing support to the community and look forward to congratulating you in person, Dad, when the craziness settles down again. Thank you.
Okay, I have been given the privilege to present this well-deserved General Sir John Monash Annual Award to my husband, Graham Leonard. The inscription, which I wholeheartedly endorse, reads, "For outstanding service to the Jewish community of Victoria." So it is with much pleasure that on behalf of JCCV, I now present you with this well-earned award. Take it.
How appropriate that Ruth, my life partner, was given the privilege to present me with this very honoured award. It would be remiss of me to not begin by referring to our experiences with the still with us COVID-19 pandemic. There are many aspects to its impact, including the positives of accelerating innovation and our use of technology, as evidenced by our Zoom gathering tonight. However, the one on which I wish to focus tonight is the risk to the Jewish community of damage to Australia's social cohesion. Ruth and I consider ourselves doubly blessed for being born Australian and Jewish. We live in arguably the best country and belong to a faith whose values we cherish. Judaism's emphasis on mutual respect, self-improvement, and personal accountability have guided me in all my community roles. I have never seen my role as being one to complete every task, but to keep moving forward and through continuous improvements, leave each organisation in a better place than when first joined, often with the longer term in mind. Last century was notable for its many isms, including capitalism, communism, fundamentalism, Islamism, and racism. The two isms of greatest significance to world Jewry were the catastrophic impact of anti-Semitism and the miracle fulfilment of the Zionism vision to establish a Jewish sovereign state. A possible and concerning consequence of the pandemic is growing inequality in Australia, which, coupled with the current woke threats of cancel culture and identity politics, pose a significant threat to our social cohesion. While the Australian Jewish community is in a relatively healthy position, if these threats are not managed well, we risk the unleashing of anti-Semitism. We must play our part by ensuring any breakdown is quickly addressed and remedies offered. In my various community roles, I have experienced many diaspora communities, and Melbourne is, in my opinion, the best place to live as a Jew, irrespective of which stream one chooses. Despite our relatively small numbers, we are home to much diversity. The only downside to this wonderful diversity is the near impossibility of achieving a consensus on any subject other than Israel. As was so astutely pointed out by Yitzhak Rabin, OBH, in his 1979 memoir, we are what I often describe as a collection of fiefdoms. One need look no further for evidence than the number of minyanim over the high holidays and the proliferation of day schools. This emphasis on our own fiefdom has meant that some amongst us choose not to support our Victorian communal roof body. Maintaining the resources and standard of our roof bodies, such as the JCCV, will be critical to successfully addressing the challenges of the post-pandemic world. We need coordinated communal planning. This need was the main drive for the groundbreaking Gen08 research and its successes. Australia's Jews have contributed much to Australia, and we jealously guard our country's emphasis on fairness and equality. Many from our community have served with great distinction in public office. Indeed, this award, of which I am the proud but humble recipient, honours arguably the greatest Australian, Sir John Monash. Jennifer, many thanks to you, Kol Kavod, on your 6 years as president and how well you met and dealt with the many challenges to our community. I could say I wish you well in your retirement, but knowing you, I doubt if retirement would be the appropriate word. And Andre, to you and your team, I wish you every success and look forward to the chance to work with you. Many thanks.
Thank you, Graham, and Mazel Tov again on what is really a well-deserved award. I'll now hand over to Doron Abramovici, who will be presenting the next award.
Thanks, Jennifer. Sylvia Gelman made a significant contribution to the Victorian Jewish community for over 6 decades, believing strongly in volunteering, education, women's rights, and helping refugees and migrants integrate into Australian society. This year's winner of the JCCV Sylvia Gelman Young Leader Award embodies the qualities we looked for: commitment, empathy, persistence, ability to engage with others, leadership, innovation, and a track record of successfully delivering results which benefit the community. It is with great pleasure that the JCCV Young Leader Committee announced this year's winner as Alana Forbes, Chairperson, Youth Leader and Mentor of the SCIF, Jewish Youth Movement, and Bund Committee Member.
The Sylvia Gelman Young Leadership Award.
Good leaders inspire others to follow them. Great leaders inspire others to become leaders themselves. Alana Forbes falls into the latter category of great leaders. At the age of 19, she took on the leadership role at SCIF, where she headed a group of other young people who were delivering weekly programs to young kids from the ages of 8 to 18, as well as organising up to 3 camps per year for as many as 100 young members of Melbourne's Jewish community. And all of this was done while she was completing, and is still completing, her medical degree. When she moved on from her leadership role at SCIF, she made sure that her replacements demonstrated the same characteristics that she brought to the job: commitment, empathy, drive, compassion, energy, and concern for others in the world. She immediately came onto the Bund Committee, where she took an active role in the Culture Committee. In that capacity, she designed and delivered a Yiddish language program to young SCIF leaders. She has also worked on community events like the Bund-sponsored Warsaw Ghetto Commemoration, the In One Voice Jewish Community Festival, and in 2019, Alana planned and oversaw the conduct of a Tikkun Leil Shavuos event. Alana Forbes is indeed a worthy recipient of the Sylvia Gelman Young Leader Award.
On behalf of JCCV, it's my great pleasure to present the Sylvia Gelman Young Leadership Award for outstanding service to my beautiful daughter, Alana.
Thanks, Dad. Thank you to the JCCV for presenting me this award, and thank you to those who nominated me for it. I must admit that I struggle to accept recognition for my contributions because I don't see myself as an exception to the rule. At SCIF, and I'm sure it's the same for other youth movements, I have been inspired by older members to become a more educated and active member of our community. And as I grew older, I saw the speed at which our organisation moved through its life cycle, with those who I once saw as relatable young people becoming adults with full-time jobs and fine lines on their foreheads. I saw them spring forward into the rest of their lives. I won't deny that I have spent many hours volunteering for organisations that I'm passionate about, and it probably has contributed to the number of fine lines on my own forehead. But there hasn't been a single moment when I questioned whether it was worth it. I have been shaped by the support and mentoring of those around me for over a decade, and I feel it's my responsibility to contribute to the empowerment of the next generation. I've also felt the strength of our inter-organisational connections firsthand. For example, I'm a proud Yiddish speaker. I did not grow up speaking Yiddish at home, but developed a passion for it as a young child at Shalom Aleichem College. At SCIF, my passion for Yiddish became an integral part of my Jewish identity as a young adult, and I found a community of others who could share in that culture. For many years, I have enjoyed the benefits of having so many different organisations supporting this shared passion in Melbourne. I have been able to attend Yiddish political events, Yiddish-only weekends, VC Yiddish classes, the In One Voice street festivals, Yiddish musical performances and theatre performances, and the list goes on. Many of the organisations behind these events are run exclusively by volunteers. My cultural identity has benefited from the hours of preparation and coordination of countless others, many of whom I have never met. I think it's only fair that I contribute to the growth and development of these organisations that have had such an instrumental role in shaping the person who I have become and the person who I will be in the future. So my main message is, this is how we want young people in our community to feel: supported, inspired, and empowered. That is how we sustain our Jewish community long into the future. Thank you.
Please enjoy the following messages, reflecting on Jennifer's 6 years as JCCV President, from 2014 to 2020.
It gives me great pleasure to send this message to Jennifer on the occasion of the completion of her term as President of the Jewish Community Council of Victoria. Over the last 6 years, Jennifer has led the Jewish community with skill and passion, representing it in the wider Victorian community, as well as being an invaluable resource for the Victorian Jewish community itself. For 5 of those years, I've been President of Zionism Victoria, and the Victorian Jewish community has led the way in having both of its roof bodies led by women. The fact that both of these women were also lawyers may or may not be seen as a further advantage. Not only has Jennifer provided me with wonderful support in my role as President, but we have over the last 5 years also become friends. I first met Jennifer in a telephonic sense when we were lawyers on the other side of a transaction many years ago. Somehow the subject of bar mitzvahs came up and we realised we were co-religionists. From that time on, our professional paths crossed from time to time, and I was delighted to see Jennifer take up her position as a member of the Legislative Council representing my area. The way in which she adapted to the life of a parliamentarian was incredibly impressive, and I know how much she enjoyed that period of her life. After Jennifer returned to the legal profession, our paths crossed from time to time, and I began to know her in communal roles, and our friendship grew as she invited our small family to join hers for Seder, and we celebrated together the marriage of her son and the birth of her grandchildren. Jennifer has managed to combine her roles as mother, grandmother, experienced lawyer, and president of the JCCV with seeming ease, and I am always amazed by how she fits everything into the day. Her passion for the Jewish community and for Israel has shone through everything that she has done. The last 9 months have presented many challenges for the Jewish community and its leadership, but Jennifer has risen to those challenges with her normal, calm and confident manner. Over the last 5 years, we have been together through times of stress and celebrated some wonderful communal moments together. I hope I've been able to give to Jennifer just a little of the support and strength that she has provided to me. She has definitely made my role as president that much easier, and I hope I have done the same for her. On my own behalf, on behalf of Zionism Victoria, and on behalf of the Victorian Jewish community, I thank Jennifer for everything she has done. I hope that over the next few months she'll have a chance to rest and recharge, because I am absolutely sure that she will soon be asked to be involved in other parts of our community, and I'm equally sure that she will rise to those challenges with alacrity and enthusiasm. Jennifer, Mazel Tov on all that you have achieved, and all my love and best wishes for all that lies ahead.
I first met Jennifer when she was a member of the Legislative Council in Victoria, and I was the chairperson of the Anti-Defamation Commission. I recall Jennifer was elected to the Legislative Council following Evan Thornley's retirement from Parliament, and was an enthusiastic and effective member of Parliament. Whilst I was the ADC chairperson, I invited Jennifer to join the ADC board, which she willingly accepted. True to form, Jennifer threw herself into the work of the ADC, making a valuable contribution. She later joined the executive of the Jewish Community Council of Victoria, became its president, and served for a whopping 6 years. During this time, Jennifer steadfastly steered the organisation through difficult and challenging issues, drove the development of the JCCV's Youth Alcohol Project, Child Protection Training Courses, Spiritual Care Project and Anti-Racism Action Plan, and played a pivotal role in the community's outreach activities with many other ethnic and religious communities in Victoria. This is in addition to the regular advocacy on behalf of our community to the state government, the media and other interest groups. Jennifer, congratulations on all your achievements as JCCV President. It has been quite a marathon and you have earned your rest. That said, I have no doubt that there is more of you still to come.
On behalf of the Ethnic Communities Council of Victoria, I would like to congratulate Jennifer on her 6 years of service as President of the Jewish Community Council of Victoria. Jennifer's leadership of the JCCV during this time has been of critical importance, as the Jewish community and other migrant and refugee communities have been under increasing attack from far-right racist elements within our society and across the world. Jennifer has helped coalesce the more than 50 communal organisations that represent the 60,000 members of JCCV, and has been a strong advocate for intercultural understanding and cooperation between faith and cultural communities. Her passion for human rights and work against vilification is similarly reflected through her previous board role at the Anti-Defamation Commission and her current board role at the Victorian Equal Opportunity and Equal Rights Commission, Human Rights Commission. Jennifer has been an important ally in the ECCV's work in the area of human rights and anti-discrimination. This included most recently helping us launch, the ECCV launched the All One Together anti-racism campaign at the Caulfield Town Hall in December 2019. Once again, on behalf of our board, staff and membership across Victoria, we thank Jennifer for her ongoing leadership in the Jewish and the wider multicultural community. Cheers.
On behalf of the Victorian Multicultural Commission, I'm delighted to congratulate the Jewish Community Council of Victoria for your continued achievements over the past year. Building on many decades of leadership and advocacy, you have provided invaluable services and support, not only for Victoria's Jewish communities, but across the state's multicultural and multi-faith communities. Through your work, you have championed cultural pride, promoted understanding, and built connections between different cultures. I thank you for your vital contribution to building unity and social cohesion in our state throughout what has been an especially challenging year for so many Victorians. Your fundraising response to the devastating summer bushfires not only raised millions of dollars for regional Victorians, but brought together many different organisations from the Jewish community in solidarity. I thank you also for your critical contribution to Victoria Government's ongoing COVID-19 response effort, communicating insights from within the Jewish communities and disseminating important information. I want to acknowledge Jennifer Hubbard for your extraordinary years as President of the Council. I want to particularly thank you for your work alongside the Vietnamese community members in helping establish the first Vietnamese museum. Jennifer, it has been a true pleasure to work with you, and I send my warmest congratulations to you for everything you have achieved for Victorians over the past years. My very best wishes for you in the next chapter. On behalf of the Victorian Multicultural Commission, I look forward to continuing our collaboration with the Jewish Community Council. Thank you very much, and all the best for the year ahead.
Thank you for that video. We're now going to get one more message. If I can invite Josh Burns, the member from McNamara, to please take the stage. Thank you, Josh.
Thanks, Andre, and it's good to be with everyone tonight. I will be brief, but I did want to say a couple of things about my friend Jennifer. I think that to stop and recognise how fortunate we are as a Jewish community to have people of calibre representing and looking after the interests of our Jewish community. It's not something that happens by accident. It's something that happens because good people put their hand up and give their time to dedicate themselves to our community. And Jennifer Huppert is one of those really, really fundamentally decent people who has put way too much effort into the Jewish community and has done so with distinction and has done so with, I think, a real credit to herself and to our, as a wider reflection in our community. The two things that I want to point out that I think that is worthy of recognition. One is something that is tangible, and one is something that's a little bit less tangible. The first thing is that years ago when I was working for the Victorian government, Jennifer came to us and said that we need to redo a lot of the security around our community assets, and we need to really improve the security for the Jewish community. And the amount of work that Jennifer and her team put together to put a really comprehensive plan for the Victorian government to improve security around the Jewish community sites around Melbourne was immense. And Jennifer did it because she believed in Jewish people being able to live a rich and fulfilled Jewish life in Melbourne, and to do so at our wonderful Jewish community events. And she was the reason why millions and millions of dollars was invested into our local community assets, so Jews could enjoy all of the lovely and amazing, wonderful community organisations, many of whom are represented tonight. The other thing I also wanted to mention is Jennifer's leadership around inclusion, and especially around the LGBTIQ community. And Jennifer has acted as a leader in this regard, and the Jewish community has taken huge steps forward in embracing people who are in our community who haven't had it so easy for a long, long time. And Jennifer changed the culture and changed the focus of the JCCV to make it more inclusive. And I think that that's a really lasting legacy that, Jennifer, you should be very, very proud of, mate. And I know that being a member of the LGBTIQ community also for many people is something where they also feel that their Judaism and their Jewish community is really, really important to them. And to be able to have that come together and to be able to be proud of both being who you are and to be part of the Jewish community is really, I think, a wonderful legacy, and you should be very proud. So Jennifer, well done. Andre, the JCCV will be in good hands, and we'll have more to say about you in a later date, but I'm sure everyone will join me in thanking Jennifer over the coming days and weeks. But well done on a fantastic legacy and all of your effort, Jennifer. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Josh. Right now, there is still some more work for Jennifer to do. So without further ado, I'll pass back to Jennifer.
Thank you, Andre. And thank you to all of those who made such perhaps undeserved but lovely comments about me. We now move to the more formal part of the evening and the adoption of the minutes of our last AGM held on the 18th of November 2019. As I mentioned before, if people could put in the chat if they would like to move or second the motion, and the first two people who get their names in the chat will be the people who, so that's moved by Brian Samuel and seconded by Glynis Lipson. Unless anyone has any objection, I declare that the minutes of the annual general meeting held on the 18th of November 2019 be adopted as a true and accurate record of that meeting. It now gives me great pleasure to present the annual report of the JCCV, which was circulated to you last week. My report appears in that document, and I don't propose to go through every aspect this evening, but I just wish to focus on a few key issues. It's been a privilege to have had the opportunity to lead the JCCV for the past 6 years. When I started in that role 6 years ago, I don't think any of us would have imagined that the last 9 months and the last year would have gone the way that they have. This year started with the devastating bushfires, which affected not only Victoria, but other parts of Australia. As the community was struggling to recover from the bushfires, COVID-19 claimed the lives arrived on our shores. Sadly, claiming the lives of 3 members of the Victorian Jewish community that we are aware of, and many more members of the community have been affected, some spending lengthy periods in hospital. As you are well aware, restrictions imposed by the government to contain the virus interrupted the usual rhythms of our lives, both communal and personal. In mid-March, as we became aware that COVID-19 would be a significant issue for Victorians, the Jewish Community COVID-19 Task Force, comprising representatives from the JCCV, Community Security Group, Jewish Community Crisis Management, Chevra Kotsola, Progressive Synagogues Victoria, Council of Orthodox Synagogues of Victoria, and the Rabbinical Council of Victoria was established. The task force liaised with government and Victoria Police and has ensured that the community has had up-to-date information regarding COVID-19 and the restrictions placed on us. In particular, I'd like to acknowledge the role of Nicole Matich, our crisis manager, who steered the task force from its establishment until early this month, when she left to take up a post with the New Zealand government, and we all wish her well for her future role. Many organisations and community members have been working tirelessly to ensure that the more vulnerable members of the community have continued to receive the support they need, be it food and grocery deliveries, financial support, services to combat the isolation resulting from restrictions on unusual community and family events. The long-term effects of the COVID-19 pandemic, communal, social and economic, will continue to be felt even though the lockdown has now been lifted and the immediate threat to our health is reduced, and will be, I'm sure, a focus of the JCCV and the community more broadly well into the future. Like many others, the JCCV has restructured its activities, moving them online, including our annual Yom HaShoah commemoration. Plenum meetings have been held via Zoom, as has our professional development program, and we are focused on working with our affiliate organisations to run programs on a wide range of topics. Executive members and staff have also attended many events organised by affiliates, including online meetings and webinars. I want to take a moment to provide an update regarding the Victorian Jewish Bushfire Relief Appeal, which was coordinated by the JCCV and led by a committee comprising David Smorgan, Ruth Alter, Ian Davis and Fiona Gaminda, and which raised $3 million, an amazing effort by the Victorian Jewish community. Organisations which have received distributions for the appeal include St Vincent de Paul, Blaze Aid, Gippsland Emergency Relief Fund, the Foundation for Rural and Regional Renewal, Foundations for National Parks and Wildlife, the Man from Snowy River Bush Festival and Biz Rebuild. As part of a $1 million donation to St Vincent de Paul's Back to School program, JCCV Executive Director Judy Fetter sat on the St Vincent's Bushfire Relief Scholarship Committee to review Year 12 applicants requiring assistance for tertiary studies in 2021. Funds have also been donated to assist with the replacement of infrastructure, such as that which supports the Man from Snowy River Festival in Corryong and the Kadjua Community Hall. This project, carried out in conjunction with Biz Rebuild, will reinvigorate community life in the Kadjua and Corryong areas. During the year, despite the difficulties that COVID has brought to us, we have continued to engage with all levels of government and other faith and community organisations, but via online platforms. Details of these engagements are set out in full in the annual report. One of the significant areas has been with the state government in respect of its response to the reports of anti-Semitic bullying in Victorian government schools. One of the government's initiatives has been the introduction of Holocaust education as a part of the Year 9 and 10 school curriculum. Judy Fetter, Francis Prince and I have participated in the curriculum development process led by the Department of Education and Training. As was widely reported in last week's Jewish News, the government has published its independent report into the anti-Semitism at Brighton Secondary College, which shows that there's still more work to be done in this area. Andre Oboler, who will be taking up the position of JCCV President shortly, and an anti-Semitism expert, joined the independent investigation as an intercultural advisor, and both the Minister and the Department have expressed their appreciation for his input. The ECAJ's anti-Semitism report, which was published last year, shows there was a significant increase in anti-Semitic incidents in Victoria during my presidency, and this is supported by anecdotal evidence. There have also been reports of anti-Semitism associated with the COVID-19 pandemic. While I do not wish to overstate these incidences of anti-Semitism, it does exist in our community, and any anti-Semitism is too much, and it can have a significant impact on those experiencing it. I'm sure that combating anti-Semitism will continue to be a key focus of the JCCV moving forward. While the activities of the last year have been drastically impacted by the measures taken to control the spread of COVID-19, the driving force behind these activities has remained constant over the past 6 years. On many occasions during my time as president, I've been asked to describe my goals for the organisation. My response has always been that I want to foster an environment in which all those who identify as Jews feel comfortable doing so. There are two aspects to this: ensuring that our community is open, inclusive, and welcoming to all, and that Victoria remains a socially inclusive society where members of our community can feel secure. This is reflected in the activities of the JCCV for the past year, as set out in the annual report, and in the annual reports presented for the previous 5 years. In this work, I've been supported by an amazing group of people, those who have served on the executive and our staff and volunteers. Since her appointment as Executive Director in July 2019, Judy has provided support to me and the executive and has been an outstanding representative of the Victorian Jewish community in a variety of spheres, developing valuable relationships with other faith and cultural communities and organisations. Also of great importance, Judy has continued to work with our affiliates and donors and other community organisations and members to improve the reach and standing of the JCCV. Hilary McMahon has been a mainstay of the JCCV for nearly 30 years. In addition to her role in looking after finances, Hilary manages our plenums and other events and represents the community in a number of forums. Her knowledge of the history of the JCCV is irreplaceable. I also acknowledge the role of Project Officer Anat Aloni, who, amongst other things, looks after our YAP program as well as communications. With schools teaching remotely for much of 2020, Anat has focused on reviewing and adapting the YAP program for the future. This brings me to those who have served on the JCCV Executive. And I cannot speak without the Executive without mentioning Anton Herman, Zichron Livracha, who served on the Executive for the whole of my term as President until his untimely passing on 6th of July 2019, the last few years as Vice President. Anton brought great passion and drive to the JCCV, and he had a lasting impact on the Jewish and wider Melbourne community. He is sorely missed by all who knew him. At the commencement of 2020, Francis Prince, who has held the Multicultural and Interfaith portfolio for 6 years, took on the role of Vice President, continuing her sterling representation of our community, strengthening our ties with other faith and ethnic communities. Ricky Steckel, Treasurer, and Doron Abramovici, Social Inclusion and Community Engagement, and Dr. Andre Oboler, Online Engagement, and Dean Cohen, Strategy, and Jack Lipson, Security Liaison, and co-opted executive members Bram Presser, Isabel Polgar, and Frank Greenstein have all made a significant contribution to the work of the JCCV. Those who have served on the executive are a diverse group, representing the breadth of the Victorian Jewish community. As you heard from Shireen earlier, for most of my term as president, she has been the president of Zionism Victoria. Shireen has provided valuable advice and support during that time and has ensured that there is a strong working relationship between the JCCV and Zionism Victoria, the two roof bodies of our community, which have represented a united approach on so many key issues. Shireen's term as Zionism Victoria president ends tomorrow night. And during her 5 years as president, she has been an outstanding advocate for Israel and the Victorian Jewish community. And like her, she has become to be a close friend and confidant. The JCCV doesn't have an official role for our immediate past president, but Nina Bassett, who held the position prior to me, has always been at the end of the phone, providing advice and support. She smoothed my transition into the role of president and continued to ensure that I have the benefit of her lengthy experience. This brings me to the end of my final report as President of the JCCV. As I mentioned at the outset, it has been a privilege to serve in that role. I've met so many people during the course of my presidency who astounded me with their dedication to the well-being of the community, including a new executive team. And I know that the community and the JCCV will continue to go from strength to strength. Thank you for entrusting me with the JCCV for the last 6 years.
Sorry, I was just trying to sort out behind the scenes thing. Were we ready for the second vote?
Yes, no, it's fine. Thank you. If we are able to put up the the poll for the 4 people who are standing for the 3 positions of ECAJ councillor.
Yep,
there it is. So if people could please complete that.
And I note for those that are on the executive who couldn't vote last time and we had to vote via SMS, you can vote in this poll, so please do if you have a vote.
Thank you, and we will announce the results of the elections shortly. And we will now move on with our program.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Frances Prince, and I have served on the JCCV Executive, holding the Multicultural and Interfaith portfolio for the last 6 years, all of those years under Jennifer's leadership. Tonight, it's my honour and my pleasure, on behalf of my fellow JCCV Executive members and our communal affiliates, and also, if I may be so bold, even communal organisations that are not affiliates, to thank Jennifer as she steps down from her 2 terms as JCCV President. Within my portfolio responsibilities, representing the Jewish community in, I guess, external forums in the broader Victorian community, I liaise with Jennifer frequently, both in real time and in the evenings. In discussions and decisions made at interfaith board meetings, ever mindful that I do not sit on any of these boards as a private individual, but as a spokesperson for the JCCV, Jennifer was always there. She was always available and she was always spot on with what needed to be done. Whatever the issue was, Jennifer immediately grasped its relative importance, and she could cut straight through to the essence of whatever the issue was. And also, and more importantly even, Jennifer was always guided by the principle, what is the best for the Jewish community? What stance should we take? Should we or shouldn't we be a signatory to this statement or that letter? Jennifer always sought to think things through, to try and work out what best represents the majority or the mainstream stance within our highly diverse community. Not an easy job to do. Sometimes we went along with decisions on board together with other faith groups, and sometimes JCCV would be the only dissenting organisation. Jennifer always stood proud and tall behind each position taken. Dedicated community service runs in Jennifer's family. Jennifer's late father, George Happert, Zichrono Livracha, and her mother, Janice Happert, were deeply and passionately involved in our community, and Janice still is. Jennifer's ability to juggle life's many roles is a marvel to behold. She somehow manages to balance her professional paid life as a lawyer, her professional unpaid life as president of JCCV, and her private relationships as a wife, a mother, a mother-in-law, a grandmother, a daughter, a sister, and a friend. While acknowledging that there are many different leadership styles, Jennifer's no-nonsense and efficient style of leadership enabled things to get done. Now, I know that in this virtual room, this room is full of communal volunteers, and it would really be impossible to tally up everyone's contributions in terms of hours and expertise and responsibilities. In fact, we all know that our community would collapse without the dedication and devotion of so many people. But one of the many things that I have seen up close and personal from working with Jennifer is what it actually means to have the proverbial buck stopping here. And that is the heavy weight that the president of JCCV, that Jennifer has always carried. And Jennifer has done this with great aplomb. So on behalf of all of us, thank you, Jennifer, for everything.
Thank you, Frances, for those very kind words. And you also did mention family, and I can't go past this evening without saying that my 6 years as president of the JCCV would not have happened without the support of my family. My husband, Bobby, who's here with me and who you will see on screen in just a few minutes. My mother, Janice, who you mentioned, and my 3 sons, my daughter-in-law, my youngest son's partner, and of course our 2 grandchildren. And I also think that one of the reasons I've taken on this role in the way I did was really following the example of my late father, George, who dedicated many hours of his life to community service and who also had a passion for social justice. So I really want to acknowledge the role my family has played in enabling me to fulfill this role for the last 6 years.
Okay. So it's my great honour, sorry.
Come on the screen.
So it's my honour on behalf of our family to take back Jennifer. So we have some more of her time and to give Jennifer this. Actually, the grandchildren wanted to play with it, but I thought you'd better see it first. So.
Thank you very much. I'll just quickly open this to see what it is. Apologise for the crunching noise. Oh, it's a beautiful platter. So thank you very much to everybody for that. I greatly appreciate it. And now we do have to move on with the formalities. And I would like to formally move my report and the JCCV annual report. Again, if I could have people putting their names in the chat, if they would like to move or second that report. Sorry, just second that report, seeing I've moved it. Okay, so that's Ricky Steckel. Thank you very much. Anybody have any objection to it passing? Otherwise, I will declare the reports accepted. And I will also now hand over to the JCCV Treasurer, Ricky Steckel, to present his report.
Thanks, Jennifer. I'm just going to touch on some of the high-level key factors for the report and take it largely as read. We're presenting both the audited reports for the JCCV and the Cultural Fund this evening, and they were both emailed out prior to this evening. So if we had to have a look at the JCCV, so over the year, we've been able to gauge a profit of about $40,000. That was largely driven by a number of government grants that we received close to the end of the financial year, which are currently being spent by the JCCV. So that includes the Multicultural Community Connection grants. Along with that, we're able to take advantage of a lot of the government grants and government initiatives around COVID economic support for the community. So we continued to take on JobKeeper and other government business support measures. And on top of that, our expenses for the JCCV grew this year largely because we were lucky enough to have Judy Feder, our executive director, for a full year, while the previous year we didn't have an executive director. So that's the JCCV audited reports in a snapshot. So to move on to the cultural report, as Jennifer pointed out, due to the generosity of our community, we're able to raise a significant amount of funds for the bushfire appeal. And so that largely accumulates to the revenue that we received over the year. So we were able to raise close to $3 million for the Australian community. And as of the 30th of June, we were yet to allocate 1.5 million of that. So we're still working to allocate that money to much needed causes, as Jennifer pointed out in her report. but that's work that's continuing with our community and with the wider Australian community and the donors as well. And so if we had to look at the reports without the impact of the bushfire appeal, the Cultural Fund just broke even. And part of the reason for that also is our decision to push back our annual appeal because of the impacts of COVID and the economic impacts that had on our community. So we didn't actually end up running an appeal this financial year, but ran it early into or last financial year, but ran it early in August of this financial year. So that's a small snapshot of the year, the year and the budget and the finances of the JCCV and the Cultural Fund. And unless there are any questions, I will also move the two audited reports or audited financial statements.
Thank you, Ricky. And I think we'll now hand over to Isabel Polgar, our returning officer, for the results of the elections.
Hi all, thank you all for your patience this evening and for allowing a as smooth as possible online elections and AGM. I would first like to thank all the nominees on their nomination ahead of announcing the results. So I'll start with the announcement of the JCCV office bearers. These should come as no surprise as they weren't contested positions, but I would like to congratulate Andre Oboler as the president, the vice president as Frank Greenstein, and the treasurer as Hannah Greenberg. Then in terms of the ordinary members of the executive that you elected tonight, in no particular order, I believe there's 5 to be elected, just to clarify. Those are Doron, Gabi, Michelle, Francis, and Howard. So I'd like to thank you all for your nominations. In terms of the incoming ECAJ councillors, there were 3 that were already elected, with 3 to be elected tonight. And the 3 that were elected are Miriam Bass, Jennifer Huppert, and Joel Silver. And then the 3 tonight that are elected are Dean Scher, Ricky Steckhole, and Daniel Nash. And thank you all again for your patience with the voting. And congratulations to all the elected councillors and members of the executive.
Thank you very much, Belle, and a mazel tov to all of those people who've been elected. And I wish you all the best in your endeavours in the following years. We now move to the appointment of honorary solicitors and auditors. And as you've been notified, we have once again, Frank Tischer of Tischer Liner & Co. has agreed to serve as honorary solicitor for the JCCV. If I could have in the chat someone to move and second that appointment, I would appreciate it. Okay, moved. So moved Jack Lipson, seconded Adam Joel. If there's no objections, I will announce Frank Tischer appointed as the honorary lawyers for the JCCV. And Jack Gaddy has also agreed to serve as our honorary auditor again for the following year. So again, if I could have a couple of people to put their names as mover and seconder of that motion in the chat, I would appreciate it. So I've got I've got David Marlowe and Benny Monheit, who have agreed to move and second the motion to appoint Jack Gaddy as the honorary auditor. Now, the next item on the agenda is a motion that was circulated with the notice of meeting, and that motion is to amend the JCCV policy platform regarding Aboriginal reconciliation. I don't propose to read the motion, though if we can, because it has been circulated. And if you have any questions regarding the motion, could you please use the Q&A function? Reconciliation with the Indigenous peoples of Australia has been a part of the JCCV policy for a number of years. And the JCCV has been actively involved in pursuing reconciliation and has sought to raise awareness within the Jewish community about this issue through events such as the William Cooper Walk held in 2018 and hosting speakers such as the Treaty Commissioner, Jill Gallagher. On reviewing our policy, the JCC formed the view that it should be updated to express the Jewish community's support for the Uluru Statement from the Heart and the reforms that it proposes, enshrining a First Nations voice in the Australian Constitution and establishment of a Makarrata Commission in order to oversee a process of agreement making with Australian governments and truth-telling about Australia's history and colonisation. So as I said, I'm moving this motion on behalf of the JCCV Executive, and I'm delighted that Philip Bliss, President of Progressive Judaism Victoria, has agreed to second this motion. Did anybody have any questions or comments regarding this motion? In that case, I will put the motion to the floor. If anybody has any objection, they should put it in the chat. If not, I will declare the motion to vary the policy of the JCCV adopted. Thank you very much. And I'd now like to hand over to the incoming president, Dr. Andre Oboler, to say a few words and finish the meeting.
Thank you, Jennifer, and thank you all for attending. I'm honoured to have been elected president of the JCCV, and I thank Jennifer and the other members of the outgoing executive for their confidence in me stepping forward. When we were discussing who would run, I initially put my hand up and said, if we don't find someone else, I'm happy stepping forward. And the executive came back and said, yes, please do. So thank you very much for that encouragement. And thank you to all of you, both the executive and the JCCV staff, for your help and your expertise and experience over the last 6 years. And I include David Marlowe, who's with us in that as well, former executive director. And obviously Judy Fetter, our current executive director, and Hillary and Anat, the whole team. It's been an experience learning from everyone, and I hope to put that into what I've learned into practice going forward. My key goals moving forward are partly to take a larger role in combating anti-Semitism. That is my expertise and something I want to bring to JCCV. As the peak body for the community, we really should be leading in that area. We have done a lot, as Jennifer mentioned in her report. I think we can do more and we can be more visible on the issues, and we will be. I also want to try and bring the community closer together. There are a lot of people in our community who are struggling right now. The health effects of COVID, the damage to Jewish families, and the financial pressure that's come as a result of that. There's also a lot of pressure on our Jewish communal organizations. And as the roof body, I think we need to work together to try and protect the infrastructure of our Jewish community as we go forward. So I think that's one of our major challenges ahead. And I look forward to working with each of you, with each of our affiliates, and with the other people in our community, all of the members of the Victorian Jewish community, in order to make ourselves stronger and to support each other. And that's really the message I want to leave us with. At this point, I'd ask if you're able to, if you could please stand, and we will close the meeting with the singing of Hatikva.
Please be upstanding for the Israeli national anthem.
אנו מכריזים בזאת על הקמת מדינה יהודית בארץ ישראל. היא מדינת ישראל.
Mizrach, Havima.
Thank you for joining us for the 2020 JCCV Annual General Meeting.